Okay, so this is practice soldering. I'm going to do some narrative here for the other classrooms and remote sites. So this is some of the things we've already set up. We have gotten our tools out. This is probably all the tools we will need out of the toolkit. We have our practice solder board. We have assembled our stand and it is heated up. We have our safety glasses on. Safety glasses on. We have our sponge. So we're going to get our sponge wet, and we can just get a half of it and kind of squeeze off the excess. It doesn't have to be dripping. This needs to be moist. Put that on our stand. Then we're going to begin tinning our soldering irons. So let's change the camera angle. Oops, wrong camera. All right, I'm going to move some of these tools out of my way so we have a nice clear stand here. We're going to move the soldering iron. Make sure we've got this at a good angle. First thing I'm going to do is strip a length of wire with just a little bit sticking out. This is the back side of my board, practice board. This is the front side. These are where the components would go. Notice the small eyelets. These eyelets, that is what the solder will stick to. So we're going to, it doesn't matter, we're practicing, we're going to find one of these holes, insert our wire, and turn it down like this. All right. And let's see how close we can get. Let's see. A little bit closer. And right there, we have our wire sticking through. Now, see the wire, how far it's sticking through? This could just as well be a resistor or a component. We're going to practice. Here's the deal. That wire is sticking too far through that hole. That if I try to solder that, it's going to be, I find it more difficult. You can do what you want to. Watch what I do the first time. This is probably not going to turn out well because I'm recording. I'm purposely going to do a bad weld, a solder. So watch this, and then I'll come back and do a good solder. So I've left the wire sticking through quite a bit through one of these holes. We're going to do this twice. And everybody see the screen? See how well we can probably get a little closer. Look at there, micro camera. Okay. So here's our solder piece right here. Get that pointed up. I'm going to take my soldering iron. This is called tinning. I'm going to tin the tip of it slightly to get some solder on it. So I'm going to come over here. See how I tin that and it melts? Okay. Now that tinning process, after a while, there's some flux built into that. It'll build up some corrosion. So if I get too much solder and need to start over, I simply take my sponge and wipe it across like that, and the solder will bead off. So let's try this again. Remember, this is the wire sticking too far through. We're probably not going to get a good solder. I'm going to get a little solder on here. I'm going to come over here, apply some. And that come out pretty good. I was trying to do worse, but it's still probably a cold joint. Let's look at it. Now I didn't apply enough heat. That probably didn't. Let's see if we can get this to focus. It probably did not go all the way into the eyelet. Now I find when the wire sticks up too far, that's usually what happens. So would it work in a circuit board? More than likely. But let's try this again. We're going to trim this off. I'm simply going to cut the wire off the back. This is the way we save wire. I'm just going to cut a small piece off, re-strip it a little bit smaller. Find another eyelet next to it that I can insert this into. Just roll it over. All right. So see that one bent over. I can tell that's a cold solder. You can kind of tell. And probably, depending on if we're actually inserting a component into this, let's get this a little bit more center screen. I'm actually going to trim just a tiny bit off. I think that's probably just too much. I'm going to trim just a tiny bit off. Now, this is a preference. Some people will solder with it sticking all the way through there. I prefer to do it this way. So I trim just a little bit off where I have maybe 1/8 of an inch sticking out of the hole. I'm going to clean my soldering iron before I begin. It's a good idea to keep that tip clean. We're going to try to apply enough heat. We don't want to keep our solder tip on the board over 3 seconds because the excess heat could damage components. So we're going to apply some solder. We're going to keep it on there until it runs. Just like so. And I've probably done a better job, but that has bonded. Now, if I was doing an actual component, once I had soldered this piece, I would come back through. Remember, this is when you do these for a grade, I'm going to look for these little pieces of wire that stick up because they can bend over and short out. So I'm going to come over here once I'm done and trim off that excess so I have a nice flush surface. Let's see if we can get a better picture of that. Maybe. And we are looking right here, the tip of that. So we'll try to focus that a little better. The one on the right is a defective one. And somewhere, there it is. We're looking at this one, which is all trimmed up. So I'm going to stop the broadcast. You guys are going to do this, and I'll pass this board around for you guys to look at. Here you go.
So it doesn't matter where we do it.
Give me 1 second.